Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Bush League Fantasy Football Podcast. What's up, everybody? How we doing right now? This is week 14. We're here to preview probably the most exciting week in the regular season of fantasy football, I think, right? I mean, this is do or die. This is make or break. This is a lot of people are listening to this episode right now and wondering, am I going to make the playoffs? Am I not going to make the playoffs? You're looking at your record right now. You're 6-7. You're 7-6. You could be 5-8 with a chance to make it. And we're here to tell you how to get it done. This is very exciting. I know in our league, just want to take a minute right now to reflect on the roller coaster that was this year. And myself and my opponent, Guido, if you're listening, I know you are. We're both sitting at 6-7, final week of the regular season. Both of us are facing each other. Win and you're in. What are the chances of that happening? If you're in a similar situation like that, let us know in the comments. Message us on Twitter, message us on TikTok and YouTube and all that fun stuff. Let us know how your season is going, because you've been dealing with an amount of acid reflux for the entire year, and then it comes down to week 14 and it just gets worse. It's like, where's my Pepto-Bismol? Where are my Tums? My goodness. Anyways, we'll get into that later on in the episode.
Tums and Pepto-Bismol.
Is that how it works? Is that how it works? I don't know. I'm going to have to get on Amazon and get that one-day Prime shipping. You know what I'm saying? Get that to my doorstep ASAP. But let's just get the episode rolling right now. We have a great episode for you guys, like we usually do. But before we jump on that, please follow us on all of our social medias. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, wherever you find all your social media stuff. We're there. Ask us any of your sit-start questions. Ask us your waiver wire questions. Ask us your lineup questions. All that fun stuff. We're here throughout this entire ride to make sure that you guys get to the fantasy football playoffs and get to the promised land and make you win your trophy and lift it up. And then you send us a picture and you're like,
yes,
Bush League Huddle.
Yes.
But like usual, on a wonderful episode that we have right now, we're going to kick it off. Roger's got the opening drive. Naka's going to keep us honest with some love haste, where we did much better than last week, to say the least.
Yourselves.
Listen, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, I guess, but still much better than last week. But before we jump into that, ladies and gentlemen, I must remind you all, please, please, please follow, like, share, subscribe, all of our social medias, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Apple Podcast, Spotify. I feel like I'm missing one. Instagram. Amazon. Take a look at our wish list. We don't have a wish list. We don't deserve one yet. Maybe in 2026. All right, I'm done. Raj, kick us off.
Everyone's wish list is for Fat to stop talking.
Yeah, seriously. It's only 3 minutes. My intro is a little bit longer.
We're gonna get you some coal. We're gonna get you guys some coal. The loser gets coal between you and Guido. Opening drive, week 14. Defensives to target weeks 15 and 16. We're going to look ahead, even though the fantasy playoffs haven't even started yet. So if you don't have a bye and you're heading into your first round matchup next week, here's some easily available defenses to target now. So these are defenses that are either on bye this week or have a bad week 14 matchups that GMs may avoid or even outright drop. So they are prime look ahead stashes. So there are 3 defenses that are good targets there, and they are teams that are actually on bye this week. So we're going to start with the 49ers. They are about 32% owned, on bye, a very likely drop candidate, but they get the Titans and rookie Cam Ward in week 15, who are second in fantasy points allowed to defenses. Next, you have Carolina. Yes, the Carolina Panthers. They're on bye this week. They're just 6% owned, but their defense looked very good against Matthew Stafford. They're definite drop candidate this week, but they get the Saints in week 15, who are 5th in fantasy points allowed to defenses. And then the last team that's on bye this week that would be a good target to stash on defense is the Patriots. They just played the Giants. They're on bye. They are 65% owned, but I imagine that's going to go down after this week as they're on bye. Tough matchup with the Bills in week 15, but they finished the fantasy playoffs with the Jets in week 17. And then some other defenses to keep an eye on. There's the Dallas Cowboys, who are 10% rostered. They'll probably stay rostered at that low of a rate through week 14 as they match up against the Detroit Lions, but they get Max Brosmer or JJ McCarthy in week 15, who allow the most fantasy points to defenses, and they've been much better since the Quinnen Williams trade. Then we have the Jaguars, who are 59% owned. They could be a drop candidate after week 14 against the Colts, for week 14 against the Colts. But then they get the Jets in week 15, who we mentioned previously. They allow the 10th most fantasy points to defenses. Two more for you. The Buccaneers, they're 30% rostered. This might be the number one defense to target. They might be gone by the time that this episode is out, but they get the Saints in week 14, then Carolina, then they get the Saints again, and then Miami on the last week of the fantasy football finals. And then finally, we talked about them last week, the Saints. They're 7% owned, likely a drop candidate this week, but Panthers week 15, Jets week 16, Titans week 17. I used them in another league last week. They got me a very solid 10 points. So I think they could be a very good defense to have. That's your quick week 14 opening drive. Defenses to stash in week 15. This is it. Season's on the line. No margins, no patience. Win or go home. This is the most important love-hate of the year. If you're fighting for a finals, a playoff spot, Knack, please take us home.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Raj, once again for a lovely opening drive. This is the love-hate segment of the episode. But before we dive into our Week 14 love-hate picks, let's rewind and review how our Week 13 calls turned out. As everyone knows, accountability matters, and it's easy. It's how we stay honest with our takes and keep improving. I take a quick look back and show what we got right, where we fell short, and how we adjust heading into another week of fantasy football chaos. So our Week 13 record, we did turn it around, thank God. We went 8-7 on the week. Overall record falls to 88, 99, and 2. So we still got some work left to do in the final weeks. Fab, you went 3-2 last week with the wide receivers. You hit on Andre Yosivas. You did miss on Troy Franklin and missed on your tight end love with Mike Gesicki. But you did hit both of your hates in Deebo Samuel and Michael Pittman.
If I could just say, I don't ever want to see a Bronco in love again. They are so unreliable.
I think we've hit one Bronco. But we've also missed on them when we put them in the hate. In the hate column, that's where they bite us, right? So maybe we keep the Broncos off the list.
I think you hit on Troy Franklin, Roger, early on in the year.
Could be.
On the love. I think so.
Very hard to predict between Franklin and Sutton.
Yeah. Raj, unfortunately, you went 1-4 on the week, missing out of your loves of Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. You also missed out on your hate of Javonte Williams and DeAndre Swift, but did hit on your hate on Tyler Warren. And to round it off, I went 4-1 on the week, missed out on my love of Cam Ward, but hit on Tyler Shuck and Brenton Strange, and also hit on my hates for Shedeur Sanders and Daniel Jones. So let's try to build on a nice little week back in the positive column here. So without further ado, let's jump right into our Week 14 love-hate picks. Fab will get things started with his quarterback breakdowns. I'll take you through the running backs, and Raj will wrap it up with the wide receiver takes. We'll also take a look at 3 tight ends that you need to be paying attention to, whether it be trending up or giving you reasons to hit pause this week. And before we do start off, teams on bye. I know Raj mentioned a few earlier. We've got the Panthers, Patriots, Giants, and 49ers. So let's go, Fab. Let's get things started with the quarterbacks you're loving and ones you're fading in Week 14.
Let's go. So quarterbacks I'm loving so far in Week 14. Jordan Love versus Chicago. Trevor Lawrence versus Indianapolis. So Jordan Love, Fantasy Pros ranked him as QB 12, but I think that's actually a bit too low. Chicago are missing 3 of their top linebackers. Jordan Love ranks second in the NFL in EPA per attempt on throws over the middle of the field. So without their starting linebackers to clutter those throwing lanes, I think Love is going to have some fun picking them apart. Chicago also ranks close to the bottom third in almost every major passing defensive category. He's ranked as a borderline QB1, but put some respect on this man's name. Put him in over guys like Daniel Jones, Bo Nix, and Justin Herbert, who are at or around where he is being ranked right now. I think Jordan Love is going to have a very nice game versus Chicago in Lambeau, might I add.
And just fun fact, as of Week 11 in his career, after Week 11, he has 34 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions in his career.
So he finishes strong is what you're saying.
Great love. Yeah, that definitely finishes strong throughout his career.
So we got some love for Jordan Love. We love a little bit of Jordan Love. We love giving some love to Jordan Love. Moving on to Trevor Lawrence, little Joey Sunshine over here. So Fantasy Pros ranked him as QB 16, but he's actually QB 8 in the last 4 weeks, if you can believe it. The addition of Jakobi Meyers, I know, Roger, you touched on this a little bit when we were chatting in our group thread. The addition of Jakobi Meyers has really opened up that offense. I think he's began to look like a reliable piece for Lawrence as well, especially if you saw what he did in Week 13. On top of that, Jags get the Colts this week without Sauce Gardner, and the Colts are forced to play most likely a soft, protect the sticks, kind of cover 3 shell, where Trevor Lawrence ranks top 5 in the NFL against zone coverage over the last month. The Colts aren't a top end matchup. You're not licking your chops when you go up against them, but they do give up the sixth most passing yards, and they've got this year. And Trevor Lawrence is playing at a pretty high level at the moment too. In the last 2 games, he put up 23 plus fantasy points. I love him over guys like Sam Darnold, Caleb Williams, Tyler Shuck, who also has a good matchup, by the way, and the aforementioned Daniel Jones and Justin Herbert. I also want to give a little quick second. I do have some honorable mentions. I think it's important this time of the year that we just don't, focus on 2 quarterbacks. I do love Jared Goff's matchup. You're starting him anyways. Tyrod Taylor and Marcus Mariota has some very nice matchups too. So if you are in a pinch where guys are on bye, I know in one of my leagues, it's a super flex league, and both of my starting quarterbacks are on bye, and I kind of need this week to make the playoffs. I have a waiver claim in for one of these players. I'm not going to say who. But yeah, because I'm stuck. But the matchups are good. The matchups are there, and so yeah, those are also guys that you should be considering as well this week. Thank you. So we're going to be 2 for 2 on that. Now moving on to the hates. So we're going to stick with the matchup at Green Bay versus Chicago. We got Caleb Williams at Green Bay. So going into very hostile territory is never great, and historically, Chicago quarterbacks have never fared well in Lambeau. In fact, over the last 10 years, the Bears are 2-8 in Lambeau, and no QB has had a QB rating of better than 100 in that span. And on the fact that Green Bay are allowing less than 190 passing yards per game and 15 passing touchdowns, which is the 5th lowest in the NFL, this game is going to be very tough for Caleb Williams. He's currently ranked as QB 17, and he's a borderline sit for me. Guys behind him that I'd rather start are Tyler Shuck, Tyrod Taylor, like the aforementioned Marcus Mariota, even Aaron Rodgers, and I'd even consider starting
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's a better matchup. I'd even consider starting CJ Stroud with KC versus Caleb over Green Bay.
That's not even a stretch, that one.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers to me is a bit of a stretch.
I think the floor with Aaron Rodgers is a lot safer.
Interesting.
Yeah. My next hate is Tua Tagovailoa at New York Jets. So did you guys know that Tua is 0-6 in games where temperature dips to below 45 degrees Fahrenheit?
I didn't.
Any guesses on how cold it's going to be this weekend?
Under 40.
Under 45. Yeah, you guys. Bing, bing, bing. Under 45. Actually, around 35 to be exact. So even so, Jets, after trading Quinton Williams and Sauce Gardner, haven't missed that much of a beat on defense from a fantasy perspective. They've given up under 16.5 points in the last 3 games. Fantasy points, that is. And they're a tougher matchup than people think. Plus, Tua hasn't been great in the past month, scoring over 20 points once in the last 7 weeks and under 7 points in the last 2 games. So his QB 22 right now on the edge of startable, but he's a straight bench for me this week. Guys around him that I prefer, like Rodgers, like I just mentioned, or Mason, depending on who plays. Shadur has a safer floor, and we even go Cousins, honestly, over Tua this weekend.
Shadur has a safer floor?
Yeah, the safer floor for Shadur is like, 12, which is also a ceiling, but still.
Like 10?
The Tua in the last 2 games has not been that great. And it's those...
Tua should barely be rostered in even Superflex, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you need a warm body sometimes, right? And that's the thing. But Tua in games where the temperature really goes like around the freezing level, which is 45 degrees Fahrenheit for all you Americans out there, he's not good. And he's not good. And the Jets are, even without their 2 stud players they traded away, like they're playing tough. You got to give them credit.
I thought the team was going to give up on Aaron Glenn, and you see it even in the post game, kind of like huddles and the post game speeches. Like it doesn't seem like they've given up yet. It's similar to actually Mike McDaniel. No. I'm actually quite surprised that both those teams have looked much better than what they looked previously.
Yeah. Very true. I do have some honorable mentions for some hates as well. Again, I'm not suggesting you sit these guys, but I would temper expectations. So Jalen Hurts versus the Chargers. He's averaging Chargers defense is giving up 11.5 fantasy points per game in the last 5 on average to opposing quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes versus Houston, similar, about 13.5 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks in the last 4.
Interesting to pick those two as honorable mentions.
I'm not done. I got more. Also, Baker and Herbert have touch matchup too. Plus, Herbert, you don't know what's going to happen. He's day to day. I'm not even sure if he's going to start or not.
He's going to start.
He's going to start.
He's going to try to play.
Yeah, well, that's it. So
but that's a Monday nighter.
That is a Monday nighter. So you're definitely going to have to roster Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Or just not play him.
Yeah.
I hope Trey Lance plays because
I'll be down to watch that.
Harbaugh was really, really high on him during training camp. Like I'm curious to see if just being in more of a he was in a winning culture with in San Francisco, but maybe being somewhere where he might be more wanted or was able to just sit back and learn from Herbert and learn from Harbaugh. I'd love to see him start and see maybe if that could amount to anything for him in the offseason.
He was in a winning culture with Dallas.
Yeah, so I completely forgot his Dallas stint.
I think he forgot it too.
I forgot.
So those are my quarterback love hates, ladies and gentlemen. Best of luck to you guys on the last week of the fantasy football season. I hope you all make the playoffs, except for Guido. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fab. Those were the quarterback love hates heading into week 14. I will keep the ball rolling with the running backs. Running backs I have this week are Devin Neal, running back 29, and Jordan Mason, RB 24 versus the Commanders. So we'll start it off with Devin Neal. Neal was eased into the game in the first half, but received the majority of the workload come the second half. And many thought that Taysom Hill would, take opportunities away from him, but he only saw 1 carry and 1 reception all game. So with Kamara likely sidelined for another game, Neal has the opportunity to show his skills. And over the last 4 games, the Buccaneers have allowed 5 TDs to running backs and an average of just under 20 points per game. So for me, very high flex appeal for me in week 14. Then switching it up to Jordan Mason, running back 24 at the Commanders. The Commanders have been extremely generous to running backs over the last few weeks. Their offense without Jayden Daniels is not staying on the field enough, and their defense gets worn out quick. So over the last 3 games, they've allowed 5 TDs to the running backs while also allowing 2 tandems to hit double digits in that span. With Aaron Jones banged up, I love Mason as a low-end RB2, high-end flex options. And I like both these guys over the likes of Manangai, Kareem Hunt, Woody Marks, and Kenneth Gainwell, who are all above them.
Man, Manangai is that's a tough one to sit.
It's
as good as he's been.
Minimal usage, but like maximum output. It's been very challenging.
Yeah, last week I actually got to see it firsthand, and they really ran the ball down their throats. I think they're just going to have a harder time with that this week against Green Bay.
Yeah, I agree. Green Bay's a very good run defense.
Those were my loves this week. My hates, number 1 hate is going to be Woody Marks, running back 21 at the Chiefs, and second is going to be Travis Etienne, running back 17 versus the Colts. So I think it's safe to say that Marks has hit his rookie wall, and I'm 100% out on him for the rest of the season. He's averaging 3.4 yards per carry in his last 3 games and has only been targeted in the pass game 3 times for 5 yards over that span. The once potential league winner has cooled significantly and gets a tough KCD in week 14. Those of you with fantasy implications should be aware of this matchup, and he's definitely a bench for me in all formats in week 14. I like, as I mentioned, Jordan Mason, even Kamani Vidal this week, and Zach Charbonnet. Definitely like over Woody Marks. Running back 21 seems extremely high.
Yeah, very tough matchup. Kansas City give up only, I think, 6 rushing touchdowns all season.
Yeah, Marks hasn't been very good. It's been a bit disappointing since the...
Very disappointing.
I think there was a few games early on, but hasn't looked good lately.
Yeah. And then, as I mentioned, Travis Etienne, another player who was rolling in the short term and then put up a dud versus the Titans of all teams. He's become very TD dependent, actually. In games where he does not score a TD, he averages 11 points per game. And when he scores, he averages 17 points per game. So he definitely gets a tougher matchup in week 14 versus the Colts, who give up the 12th fewest points to running backs on the season. Again, with your season on the line, I'm not sure I'm trusting Etienne, although he'd be really, really tough to bench, especially if you're looking and need to win a matchup. But I do like Kenneth Walker, even Jaylen Warren to bounce back, and again, Jordan Mason over Etienne.
I definitely like the Mason over Etienne call. That to me is a no-brainer. I think if has it been confirmed that Aaron Jones is out for this week?
He has like a bad shoulder.
Yeah.
Didn't come back after injuring in the third quarter, so that wasn't a good sign.
It's
They
a pretty
say
good
day
sign.
to day, but likely on we'll see what happens. But I think even if he does play, I think Mason has a big game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That'll do it for the running backs. Raj, take us home with the wide receivers you love and hate this week.
Yes, thank you, sir. So the wide receivers I love this week, Jayden Higgins, wide receiver 35 at KC, and Jakobi Meyers, wide receiver 23 versus the Colts. So with regards to Jayden Higgins, he faces KC, who've allowed the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers in the last 2 weeks. Higgins is firmly in the wide receiver 3 flex territory, averaging a solid floor of 12.5 PPR points per game in the last 4. Week 14 saw another solid performance from the rookie, 5 catches, 65 yards, second in route percentage, and he's actually first in third and fourth down targets ahead of Nico Collins. So week 7, he's second on the pecking order ahead of Christian Kirk, Xavier Hutchinson, and Jaylen Noel. So with Stroud finally looking back and looking good, I love Higgins over the likes of Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks. Like, truly, guys, are you really going to hedge your bets on Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks in do or die situations? And there's DJ Moore and Trey Tucker as well that I like. I like Higgins more so as well. So I think he'll be a very solid flex and floor play. And then the other wide receiver I love, as mentioned, Jakobi Meyers, wide receiver 23. This is a smash love and start pick versus the Colts, who've allowed the 6th most fantasy points to wide receivers over the last 2 weeks, despite not even allowing a touchdown in that span. So this is a great PPR situation for Jakobi Meyers. He's firmly for me in the WR2 territory. He must be kept in your lineups due to his growing chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. Since the trade, he leads the Jaguars in total targets and in third and fourth down targets as well. And one telling stat I dug up showing his chemistry with Lawrence, his catchable target percentage is at 86% with Jacksonville. If you compare that to Brian Thomas, it's 73. So that kind of really shows you the type of targets that Lawrence is able to throw to Meyers versus the stuff downfield that doesn't really work well with Lawrence and BTJ. So again, great PPR spot for Meyers. Plus with Sauce Gardner out, get him in and over the likes of Roma Dunze, Marvin Harrison Jr., and even DK Metcalf as well. And for myself, some honorable mentions too. Again, last week of the regular season for fantasy, Christian Watson against the Bears. So if there's a Packers wide receiver I would trust, it's Watson. Target shares of 33, 36% over his last 2 games. He's averaging 16 PPR points per game. Emeka Egbuka, I know it hasn't looked good lately, but still 30% target share over the last 3 weeks. The usage is solid, and he gets a really, really easy schedule starting in week 14. Alec Pierce, just put him in your lineups. He's been fantastic. 15 points, 3 of the last 4 games. And then AD Mitchell, I think he is bit boomer bust, but if you really need high variance, he looked like a baller against Miami. Sorry, not Miami, against the Falcons. 8 for 100 plus yards and a touchdown.
He held on to the ball.
He held on to the ball, yeah, for once. And in terms of my hates, so my hates for this week are Zay Flowers with WR14. I don't understand the rankings for Zay Flowers.
It's actually incredible what people are ranking Zay Flowers.
It's like they forget him. It's like they forget he's just plug and play. But hate Zay Flowers, WR14 against the Steelers, and Roma Dunze, WR27 at Green Bay. So we're going to start with Zay Flowers. It's pretty simple. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1 and is averaging 10 PPR points per game since then. Baltimore actually dead last in pass attempts this season, and Flowers just came off a game where he had 7 targets, 2 catches, and 6 yards. This is really interesting. He's the WR29 on the season, but is 14th in the NFL in yards and 11th in catches. So he's, without the touchdowns, which he hasn't gotten since week 1, and he's never been a touchdown threat, he's very hard to trust. So I am fading him for the likes of Terry McLaurin. Justin Jefferson somehow's consensus WR17. There's no way I'm sitting Justin Jefferson for Zay Flowers. And then I still trust Michael Pittman and, of course, Jakobi Meyers over him. And then, as mentioned, Rome Odunze, another wide receiver I hate. WR27 at Green Bay, who allowed the 6th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers over the past 4 weeks. Odunze went from a must-start to flex bench territory. Inconsistency, accuracy issues from Caleb Williams, and drops from Odunze. And the Bears basically turning into a running juggernaut have relegated him to only an 83% route participation and 9.5 PPR points per game over the last 4 games. He's too inconsistent to trust currently, with Caleb having more chemistry with his tight ends and his running backs, especially with Micah Parsons coming into town. As mentioned, I like Alex Pierce, ranked around the same spot over Odunze. I like Chris Godwin as well, looking much better after last week. Even Isaac Tesla, if Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't play as well.
Tesla.
That's a great call, actually. Isaac Tesla's going to be a very nice call this week.
Yeah. Again, if Amon-Ra doesn't play, which I think we'll know more of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, by then, will be Wednesday. Honorable mention, wide receivers to fade. Just the Troy Franklin, Cortland Sutton. I know it's against the Raiders, but they didn't do anything last time against the Raiders, and it is really hard to trust either one. If one goes off, the other one has a dud game, and vice versa. Brian Thomas Jr. as well. Obviously, the reasons are very clear. Lawrence clearly has a preference for power slots and tight ends instead of deep X receivers, and the switch towards that has been better for Lawrence. So those are some honorable mentions as well that I would fade.
Fantastic.
Love it.
Yeah. Those were our wide receivers. Raj, why don't you keep it going with a tight end you love or hate this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna sit Blue Eyes Arande Gatson the second, tight end 8 versus the Eagles, who allow the second fewest yards to tight ends this season, and entering week 13 allow the third fewest points overall to tight ends as well. Last week, he had his lowest route participation in weeks with just 68% routes run. He's actually been asked to block more with the Chargers' offensive line issues. With Justin Herbert potentially out, I see Gadsden seems like a fade-worthy candidate ranked in the top 8, excuse me. I would prefer a guy like Juwan Johnson over him this week, personally.
Your boy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raj. What about you, Fab? Love or hate on the tight end position this week?
I got a love for Mason Taylor. So, Joy Taylor, I hope you're listening. The lowest... So Mason Taylor's playing Miami. I forgot to mention that. Sorry. The lowest a tight end has scored this year versus Miami is 6.7 points. The lowest. Like, that's your floor. Like, you put him in the lineup, he's a warm body. He's getting at least 6.5 points. Taylor is ranked as tight end 19 right now, which is bananas. If you're desperate for a streaming tight end, he's probably on waivers. He's a good bet to get you 10 plus fantasy points and even probably just fall into the end zone. I think he has a very good matchup, and he also has a very good matchup, obviously, this week, and also a really nice matchup schedule into the playoffs, too. It's something to keep an eye on as well. You could pick him up this week, and then you could probably start him into your quarterfinals and semifinals, and maybe your finals if you make it that far.
Maybe one to watch. I will end us off with a love as well. I've got Isaiah Likely, tight end 20 versus the Steelers. So he saw his highest target share actually in week 13. Had 6 targets, 5 receptions for 95 yards. And if it was not for that goal line fumble, he would have finished with 20 PPR fantasy points. And he does get a Steelers team that has given up an average of 15 points per game to the tight ends over the past 5 weeks. And Likely usually has an knack for showing up in big games, and both teams need to stay alive in the playoffs. So I'm definitely rolling with Isaiah Likely, and I like him over Evan Ingram, Dalton Schultz, and I do like him over Mason Taylor.
What do you guys think of Darren Waller this week? There's been a lot of talk. I've seen a lot of talk about Darren Waller being back against the Jets.
I mean, he does the one thing that they need him to do, which is catch the ball in the red zone. So I think it's a dart throw. You don't know what's going to happen, but if you're desperate, you could do worse.
That cold scares me, man.
Yeah, the cold is legit. But then again, if they get in close, Tua doesn't need to throw that far. So what am I saying? I have Tua as a hate. No. Darren Waller's not going to have a good week this week. No. Darren Waller's a sit. Leave him on the waivers.
That will do it, ladies and gentlemen, for another edition of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. from me and my co-host. Good luck this week for those needing that extra win to get into the playoffs. We will see you next week with the Fantasy Playoff Show. Raj, the music.
Oh, I also forgot to mention, Lucas, you might want to set your lineup if you seems a bit empty.
You can't speaking to the mic, Mac. Lucas, I think he's saying something about Lucas structure players. Your whole team
You might
is
want to
on.
start your players because your lineup seems a bit empty there. So you might want to
Put your players in there.
Lucas is playing mind games. Not like anybody else plays mind games. I see you, Guido. I see you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Have fun.
Goodbye.
Peace.
Good luck.